Picture two people in your mind who live a few blocks apart in the same city. The first earns a solid income. Their apartment is full. A large television, premium speakers, a closet organized by season with items still wearing price tags, a spare bedroom holding a stationary bike and boxers from a move 3 years ago that were never unpacked. This person checks their bank balance with low-grade anxiety. Every month the money arrives and somehow it quietly disappears. The second person earns noticeably less. Their apartment is simpler. A kitchen stocked with tools that actually get used. Almost nothing that does not serve a real purpose. This person has more than a year of expenses accessible at any time. They invest a portion of every paycheck before they have a chance to spend it. The person earning less has more financial security. This video is about why that happens and what you can do about it. There is a common story about money. If you want more of it, earn more of it. Get a better job. Build a side income. Negotiate a raise. That story is incomplete. What you do with money once you have it matters just as much as how much arrives. The relationship between what you own and what that ownership quietly costs you. 10 clear frameworks for making smarter decisions with the money you already have. Number 1. When you buy something, you pay twice. The first payment is obvious. It is the number on the receipt. The second payment is invisible, and it often ends up being larger. The first part is physical space. Your home costs money to maintain. A piece of exercise equipment that sits unused occupies real space that has a real cost. Physical objects need cleaning, repairs, storage, and eventual disposal. A motorcycle requires registration, insurance, periodic service, and protective gear. Every object you own occupies a small slice of your mental attention. Visual clutter raises stress and reduces focus. Money spent on possessions is money that is not compounding elsewhere. A home gym costing $15,000 could have grown substantially over a decade. Learning to calculate the full cost is one of the most valuable financial habits you can develop. Rule number 2, calculate costs per use. Before any significant purchase, ask, how many times will I realistically use this? Divide the total cost by that number. That result is your cost per use. A $300 jacket worn twice a season costs $75 per wear. A $500 jacket worn 5 days a week through a 6-month winter costs under $1 per wear. A specialized kitchen appliance at $200 used once a month costs $17 per use. A basic $30 chef's knife used daily drops to under 10 cents per use. A quality mattress used every night for 10 years costs a fraction of a cent per use. The math removes emotion. Does the value justify what it will actually cost? Rule 3, the replacement test. Walk through your home and look at each item with a single question in mind. If this disappeared tomorrow, would I spend money to replace it? The bread machine in the back of the pantry? Would you replace it? Most items exist through inertia rather than intention. Keeping them is a small ongoing cost with no corresponding benefit. Developing the habit of seeing possessions through the lens of current, genuine value. Rule 4, the upgrade trap. A functioning item gets replaced not because it failed, but because a newer version exists. The phone that handles every task you need gets replaced because the new model has an upgraded camera. These feel like forward motion. Financially, they function as wealth erosion dressed as progress. Replace things when they cannot do what you need them to do, not when something newer exists. Avoidable spending on phones alone across decades could reach tens of thousands of dollars. Upgrade culture is deliberate. Companies invest heavily in creating dissatisfaction with things that work perfectly. Your response is a clear personal definition of functional. Does this do what I need it to do? Rule 5. Engineer friction and flow. Most financial advice is built on the assumption that discipline is the solution. Willpower is a limited resource. It depletes over the course of a day. The person who relies on discipline alone will eventually, when tired or stressed, make the impulse purchase. People who build lasting financial habits redesign their environment, so the right choice is the easier one. Remove saved payment information so completing a purchase requires more than one click. Set a personal rule of waiting 24 hours before any non-essential purchase. Studies suggest a large proportion of purchase urges simply dissolve when not acted on immediately. Set up automatic transfers to savings that execute on payday before money reaches spending account. You are not fighting your impulses. You are redesigning the landscape so your impulses lead somewhere useful. Rule 6. Count what you own. Pick one category of possessions and count every item in it. Most people find the number is 3 to 5 times higher than they expected. Once you know you own 40-something items of clothing, buying one more feels different. Extend the exercise to other categories. Subscriptions, hobby gear, tech accessories. Set a personal maximum for each category. A one-in, one-out policy. Every new acquisition requires a real decision. What does this replace? You cannot manage what you have never measured. Rule 7. Try before you own. There is a particular kind of financial waste that does not feel like waste at the time. Someone gets excited about cycling. They picture weekend rides, better fitness, a new identity. They buy a bike, helmet, shoes, car rack, and maintenance kit. Over $1,000. 6 months later, the bike is in storage. The enthusiasm felt permanent in planning. It was temporary in practice. The principle: rent or borrow before you commit to buying. Try the activity 3 or 4 times using rented equipment. The cost is a fraction of purchasing. Many interests survive the rental phase. Some fade. Finding that out before buying saves money. Renting teaches you exactly which items matter and which do not. When you buy well. Rule 8. Account for the full ecosystem. Major purchases almost never stand alone. They are the centerpiece of a broader ecosystem of costs. Consider what it actually means to buy a boat, a trailer, storage fees, insurance, annual maintenance, safety equipment, gear. A $40,000 purchase can reveal itself to be $60,000 or $70,000 over 5 years. A backyard pool brings chemical costs, cleaning, seasonal maintenance, insurance, landscaping. Calculate the ecosystem before committing to the centerpiece. When you sell a high-maintenance asset, you eliminate every attached cost. The benefit exceeds the sale price. Rule 9. Define enough. Lifestyle inflation. Income rises. Lifestyle expands to match, and the expanded lifestyle becomes the new baseline. Someone earning a very comfortable income can feel exactly as tight as someone earning half that. Decide what enough looks like before your income gives you the ability to exceed it. What says home is genuinely sufficient? What transportation meets your real needs? Write those answers down. Treat them as commitments. When income grows beyond the lifestyle you defined, that extra flows into investments automatically. Someone who defines enough early and later doubles their income, has a large surplus building wealth every year. Defining enough is not resignation. It is deciding your future freedom matters more than a more impressive present. Defining enough creates a finish line. That is what financial independence looks like in practice. Rule 10. Make decluttering a rhythm, not an event. Many people do a big purge. The home feels lighter. They feel better. Then, over the following year or two, accumulation quietly drifts back to where it was. The purge was an event. The accumulation was a habit. Events do not beat habits. The alternative: make awareness of your possessions continuous rather than occasional. Brief weekly look at what is coming into your home and why. Monthly walkthrough of one category. Small, consistent actions outperform large, infrequent ones. Regular review builds awareness of your own consumption patterns. You stop items at the door rather than removing them a year later. Over time, the rhythm creates a home aligned with how you actually live. Step 1 is awareness. Walk through your home and apply the replacement test to one. Step 2. Make one concrete decision about each identified item. Sell, donate, or discard. Step 3. Remove saved payment info from 2 or 3 retail platforms. Set a 24-hour rule. Step 4. Write down your personal definition of enough in 2 or 3 spending categories. These steps do not require an income change. They require only honest observation. Most people feel more regret about small accumulated purchases than large deliberate ones. The large purchase was deliberate. You understood what you were doing. The invisible accumulation happened without clear decisions, the sum of hundreds of small choices. You need to become aware of the patterns behind the small purchases. The question is not what did I buy last year? It is what am I in the habit of buying? What does that habit cost across 5 years, 10 years, a lifetime? Once you can see it, the choices become much simpler. One person earns more and carries quiet financial anxiety. The other earns less and has built something real. The difference is a set of questions one of them learned to ask before spending. Those questions do not require a finance degree or unusual willpower. Wealth is not what you accumulate in a home. It is the freedom to make decisions based on what you actually want. The people who get there are not the highest earners. They are the people who decided ownership should serve their life. That decision is available to you today. At whatever income you currently have, if one principle felt relevant, start with just that one, not all 10. One principle applied consistently this week is worth more than 10 principles admired in passing. If this raised a question or surfaced something from your experience, leave a comment.